This Pitch Breakfast video is brought to you by Spangler & Agins, attorneys for Charlotte's startup community.
Morning, everyone. Thanks for coming out, and I am ready. So by show of hands, how many people in the audience have used or are currently using a dating app? By show of hands on the other side, how many of you prefer and usually date the traditional way and have done? Cool. So what we're doing here is we're taking the magic of that traditional dating and we're bringing that online. So my name is Sterling Scott. I'm the founder and CEO of Instimate, which is a dating app company. And I'm going to start off with the obvious. There are way too many dating apps. There's enough in the marketplace. There's hundreds of them. There's, you think of Tinder, you have your Bumble, OkCupid, Match.com. Heck, they have gluten-free dating. They have Black People Meet. They've got vegan dating. There's dating apps for everything. It's a really saturated market. But the problem with that is that even though there's so many options, there are way too many bad experiences, right? So you have a ton of people who are on the apps who don't actually go on dates. You have a ton of people who get bombarded with advertisements. You have a ton of people within the app itself that, they get catfish, which means they're going out on a date with someone who's not who they say they are. You have people that have really bad experiences dating because they go somewhere and the person's rude or aggressive or extremely late. So how do we protect against these things? How do we stop these things from happening? And that's what we're doing. We're bringing people better user experiences in terms of the user side, and for advertisers, we're generating a better ROI in terms of their investment. So I'll start with the facts. So 60% of US adults believe online dating is a good way to meet people. Of people who've actually used dating apps, that number jumps up to 80%, right? So they believe that dating apps are a good way to meet people. However, of people who use dating apps, 1/3 of them actually never go on a date, and these are people who are averaging using it about 12 times per week over a period of months who never go on a date. This is all data from the Pew Research Center. So we're changing that experience. What we're doing is we're getting people more quality dates, we're doing it faster, and we're doing it by having a goal-oriented dating experience that mirrors that of a traditional dating experience, which no other app delivers in the world today. So some of our surveys and studies, we found that 62% of people said that scheduling a date was their top priority when using a dating app. However, none of the largest dating apps are addressing this priority. We are. We're getting people more dates instantly, and as I said, we're doing it through a goal-oriented user experience. So, first step, two people match. So, within the app itself, if I see someone I like, I can swipe right to send them a real-time date invite. That person gets that invite in real time, they swipe right as well. A date is automatically scheduled based on user availability, as well as restaurant and venue preferences. Leading up to that date, the two people have the option to message each other through the in-app messaging. So for example, I asked someone on a date through the app. The date is scheduled this Friday. Between now and Friday, I can continue to message that person, and even after the date, I can continue to do so. So it sets a very clear goal and expectation of actually having a date, and then also at the same time makes it so you can get to know each other through the app. So it's much more than an app, as I'm referring to it. It's a new online dating experience. Users will get the matches in real time, and the dates are automatically scheduled as soon as it's mutual. So there's no question of when are we going out, when are we going to meet, where are we going to meet. It's automatically set based on what you both already like to do and based on when you're both free. So through the in-app messaging, you also have the opportunity to continue to get to know each other. So through apps today, most of the time when people match, they have the ability to message each other immediately. You still have that here because as soon as you match, the date's scheduled. We're also revolutionizing the dating app world by focusing on safety and security. So what we have is a text message buddy system where people can designate a friend or family member to receive the person you're going out with's name, the venue where you're going, and what time you'll be going there. So they get the date, time, and location in real time. And so you can actually guarantee that someone you know knows exactly where you're going and with whom. There's also the ability to check in or check out of the date. So when you arrive on site, you can check in. When you leave, you can check out. You can notify your friend or family member who's that text message buddy of exactly what you're doing. There's also an in-app rating system. So when you go out on a date with someone, afterwards they'll ask you, how was the date? Thumbs up or thumbs down? If it's thumbs up, good to go, no problem. If it's thumbs down, we ask why. Was the person late? Were they a no-show? Were they not who they said they were? Were they rude? Were they aggressive? Did you feel unsafe? And based on what you flagged for that account, we actually go in and we can take action, whether that's a warning, whether that's removing the account altogether, or whether it's just a point-based system so we can flag the account to know if there's future problems. So we're offering unparalleled security within the dating app that's never been offered before. So while we revolutionize the dating app experience, we're also revolutionizing in-app advertising. So no more paying for ad views or paying for ad clicks. What we're doing is we're actually letting people pay to fill seats. So you're actually getting a direct ROI on your investment in the ads. So using our automatic scheduling, when a restaurant needs a boost in business, they can actually pay to put people in their seats. So for example, if I like Mexican restaurants, my date likes Mexican restaurants, we're both scheduled to go to a Mexican restaurant, someone can say, I want 25% of the dates in this market to come to my restaurant. And they can actually pay directly for that. And it's something the user never experiences in seeing an actual ad. It just happens in the back end, and the restaurant actually gets a direct return on their investment. Same thing with venues. So you can use this for first dates, second dates, third dates, as much as you want. You can even use this after you're already in a relationship, but you can use this to go to concerts and events and things like that as well. So it makes it so you can actually have an ad pop up and say, hey, are you interested in seeing Thor Ragnarok? And if two people both say that they're interested in seeing it, one, it's an ad that they're actually viewing, but two, they're actually getting scheduled automatically to go there and can pay through the app as well. So we put butts in seats instantly. That's what we do. Just to go over some revenue. So we unlocked the in-app messaging, the text message buddy system, and the date feedback with a $5 subscription fee, which 40% of the people that we've tested it with have said that they're more than willing to pay, and it's a lot lower than the cost of using other dating apps. There are no in-app upsells for sending a message or for sending a date invite, so it's actually, in the end, lower cost than other dating apps such as Bumble and Tinder, where you're paying 50 cents to $1 more just to send a super like or to stand out amongst the crowd. There are also going to be business partnerships, so obviously we're going to have restaurants and venues paying for the ability to capture some of this revenue, some of this business, and so that's where a lot of this is going to come from. The market's huge. $1.7 billion dating site market in 2015, 629 for dating apps. Our goal within the first 3 years is to capture 1% of that market share, and we're going to do that with an initial $150,000 investment for user acquisition and business partnership alignment, and that's going to give us about $120,000 in revenue the first year, about $800K the second year, and that should put us at that 1% of the market by the end of year 3. Thank you everyone for your time. I'm sorry I went a little bit over. I'd like to open up for questions.
Yeah, I'd say it's like I'm repeating, and also I'll just repeat that being very critical, but that's because Vic makes me get up early and come. Take a lot of the data out up front. Like, it's just too many percents. Like, It's awesome that you read a Pew study. Like, I loved how you led with there are too many bad experiences. And then get into the concept of goal-oriented experience, right? And again, the 10-minute, we're talking about this like 10 to 15-minute framework. Goal-oriented experience. I'm like, boom, what is that? It took you 5-6 minutes, I think, to get to what that is, and then you never really defined what that is, in my mind. And then when you're talking about goal-oriented customer experience, show the value, right? It looked like you got there, like this instant scheduling, time-saving value prop, messaging pre-date, security, like draw those ideas out and get those in the first 2-3 minutes, because everything else doesn't really matter to me, and I can't retain any of that. And I can't even contextualize it. Even if I had experience in the dating app space and I'm an investor and I think you're going to disrupt the space, none of those numbers help it. It's all about value prop, and then you turn that value prop and then you went into a list of features, right? You wasted 3 or 4 minutes going through all the features of the app. Don't do any of that in a 10-minute pitch. Just literally get to, I'm different, here's the value proposition I care about, here's why I care about it. You might have experienced it, or you've got some good data to support it, and then turn the value proposition into, here are the features of the app that we're going to test to drive usage, right? Anything other than that, you sound like you're just basically trying to boil the ocean, and no one's going to want to invest in a boil the ocean dating app, would be my guess. So that's just to be super hypercritical. The revenue model and the business thing, really interesting actually. And I think you can also kind of tie that in the end in a very clean way, and saying like, I'm going to build a network of people, and then the restaurants, the B2B, the business side of this will come to the network. because those are dynamics that most early stage investors can associate with. They're like, okay, cool, but without that network, the restaurants aren't going to sign up. So you've got to talk to us about how you're going to get that network on board and engaged. And in B2C, I think using words like, hey, we're going to test these features. Don't lead with, I know this is going to work. Lead with like, hey, here's the 1 or 2 things I think are really going to hook users. Get them to use it once, twice to keep that $5 a month thing happening. And then you're kind of onto something. So anyway, that's my critical analysis.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Some tweaks I need to make to the deck and kind of restructuring the
thin it out again. Like 30-40% of these decks, like get it out, get to the point.
Will do. Thank you.
So unfortunately, 50-year-old have never used a dating app, so I'm not your target. But is catfished really a word out there? I've never heard that one before.
It's a very colloquialized term. So there's a movie called Catfish about a guy who he pretty much met someone online, went through this long period of being to know this person, showed up, and she wasn't who she said she was. And they made a TV show based on that.
Okay.
So now it's a kind of a colloquialized term. So the catfishing kind of means like you're getting to know someone online, who they aren't who they say they are. And
Okay,
it's a song we
so
didn't
take
have-
all my feedback with a grain of salt, because I had never heard the word catfish, but that's a good one to write down. So on the positive side, I love the simplicity of your slides. I mean, it's red, it stands out, not a lot of words, pictures, that type of thing. I agree with Mark. There's some fluff in the beginning.
Yeah.
You grabbed my attention right at the end when you said, I put butts in seats. Because the whole time I'm thinking, all right, I know there's a lot of dating apps out there. I've never used one. It seems like some of the features you were talking about, it seems like it would be pretty standard. But then when you said I'm bringing in the restaurants, the concerts and that type of thing, that made it interesting. So, but it took you 4.5 minutes to get to that point to really grab my attention. So I found that interesting. Unfortunately, I'm just not your target. So let me. You have something else?
I think Rob just made a really important point, and I've had the same feedback as a CEO founder, 2 different startups pitching. And 2 different VCs said the same thing. They're like, start over, like start at the end and like almost rewrite the pitch from the end. Not that you have to live with that, but just try that and see. Use a creative process to kind of tease out some of those points, because I think that there's stuff in the end of this that was like, oh, that's highly differentiated. Because in a crowded app market, in a crowded dating app market, you really need to kind of get a hook quickly and have people remember what it was. And I think both of us will walk away like, that's really, there it is. It happened near the end. So
that's awesome feedback. Just knowing what caught you all's attention and knowing to bump that up a lot sooner. I mean, that's the main value proposition. There's the user experience side and there's the ad revenue side. So a lot of people are paying for advertising now and they're not getting their ROI. So I could definitely bump that up early in the deck so people understand the business value behind it.
That's good. It's part of the education piece here, right? Audience. Yes.
So on the revenue model with the sponsors, I just think that could really take off. You've heard me though, what would happen if it does take off to even this minor degree, and all of a sudden Match.com or one of the other ones is like, hey, me too. And they just jump in and take over your whole plan. How would you
Oh yeah. So I think the main thing is what we find within the dating app market is that the larger the player it is, the longer of a time it takes to pivot and add new features. And so in order for them to go in on the back end and make it so that they have the automated scheduling piece, and in order to capture the revenue based on that, they'd have to go back and visit the fundamental structure of how they're not only matching people, but how they're opening up communications. And so it would require a lot of business change to do. Of course, they have the capital to do that. They have the resources to do that, but they're highly unlikely. So, for example, if you look at another disruptor like Bumble, who they're a dating app who made it so that it's driven by the woman's preferences. And so when someone asks someone, like sends a nice wife criteria if I like someone, the woman has the option to open up that messaging, right? So it sits in a queue for 28 hours. They don't respond. Then it disappears. And so that's something that's really been disruptive because it's improved the user experience for women users, and that's what it's made them a disruptor. A lot of other players have seen that. So you've seen your Match.coms, your eHarmonies, your Tinders. They've seen this as well. And while they might have added new features to kind of compete with that, they haven't changed their overall model to compete specifically with them. And so I expect the same type of response. There'd be some type of things that get implemented, but in order to do the overall scheduling and putting butts in seats, that's something that they would actually have to go back and revisit the fundamental structure of how they're matching people and communicating.
Time for one more question.
just have a comment. Is there a question?
Go ahead, let me get this question in too. Go ahead.
So just a comment is, so you pronounce it instimates. I would pronounce it instamates.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if you're aware of that in the sense of like PetSmart, where PetSmart and PetSmart
Yeah,
are both
yeah.
great ways of saying it.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the fact that people might say it wrong? Does that even matter?
Yeah, it's a pretty good mix. I think I'd say like 60 to 75% of people have been saying they see it as intimate with an S dropped in, and other people see it as instimate. And so I think that, you know, for me personally, and for people, it's kind of a fun thing where people pronounce it differently, and it's like, I guess it's a really good conversation starter or something like that. So I kind of just left it as it is, and if people say instimate, I let them know it's instimate, but I'm okay with instimate as well. So people kind of call it two different things, similar to the PetSmart scenario.
One quick question?
Yeah, I stumbled over the goal-oriented language that we used
Yeah.
also. I was like, is this something where it's gonna, people want to skydive together in that goal? But really it boils down to putting butts in seats, not only for the advertiser, but for the data seeker. And so it's my understanding from where you sit down is that everything else is a date seeking app, and you're a date setting
Yes.
app, right?
That's a good point. Yes.
And if that clarity was made early on, I would have gotten it a lot faster.
Okay.
And it's the shared goal of putting my butt in a seat and putting my butt in an advertiser's seat.
I like the way you said that. I'm actually going to create a slide that says
Nailed it.
exactly.
There you go.
It's your marketing guy.
Put Eric on the panel.
Let's chat after.
All right, instimate or
See you,
instimate,
man.
everybody.